under any president. But not doing it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. You see the title of the screen behind me is titled Five Rights You Will Lose Under President Trump. I feel confident you will lose these five rights. This is not based on feelings, facts over feelings. This is not based on so much on feelings, but rather on statements Trump has stated and the way MAGA feels about it as well. Obviously, number one, we talked about the flag burning, all of that shit. That's part of the First Amendment free speech rights. But understand it goes First Amendment goes way beyond flag burning. Now, First Amendment covers your freedom of press, assembly, the right to free speech, and freedom of religion. And I'm going to submit to you that Trump is going after all those parts of the First Amendment, in addition to overturning your right that you had according to the Supreme Court to burn a flag as protected free speech. He's going after all of it: press, assembly, and religion. And the examples I'm giving you right now is that he's talking about signing an order to have a special branch of the National Guard basically on his beck and call. So if something kicks off, he has he has his own little military he could dispatch. Now you saw what happened when he sent the military to Los Angeles during a perceived protest and riots there. Obviously, they're in D.C., and now he's talking about sending them all over the country to other cities. Now, the reason I'm bringing up that is because the right to assemble is part of the First Amendment. The symbol is protest, getting together and speaking out against President Trump. Remember, he held the Bible upside down during his first term and had people tear gas. Now, we talk about the right to assemble. If all he has to do is deem what you're doing as some sort of a riot, you could have 1,000 people assembling to protest something Trump is doing. And if one person, throws a rock and breaks out a window or something like that, or spits on a cop, just deem the whole movement as a riot. And here you already have your own National Guard on standby. You can break up anything. So that is your freedom of assembly that is greatly being threatened. And of course, we've seen that happen in Los Angeles. We've seen that happen in DC with the upside down Bible. And of course, he's already deemed BLM as a terrorist outfit. So my guess is if you've already called BLM a terrorist outfit, might see in the future where it just simply becomes illegal for BLM to protest at all because they're deemed a terrorist outfit. So that is assembly. Now, freedom of speech in addition to the flag burning. And I'm only on the number one. There's four other rights I think you're going to lose under here. But freedom of speech is the big one. Now, in addition to flag burning, when I say freedom of speech, protest on college campuses, deemed as anti-Semitic. So we're going to shut down the college, or we're going to not give them federal funding. We're going to punish the college some kind of way if your students are protesting in ways we don't like. That is, once again, challenging your freedom of speech. Now, the other one, press, assembly, we're going to talk about press. Obviously, Trump has banned press like the Associated Press. I think he's put CNN on ice a few times so they can't even come to the White House and hear speeches. You've seen what he's done to NPR. So when we talk about the press, he's been attacking the press since day one. And oddly enough, while he's criticizing networks like CNN and MSNBC, calling them fake news, he's totally favorable with Fox and OAN, even though they've been proven in a court of law to be lying. So press is certainly another one as part of the First Amendment that he's attacking. And last but not least, freedom of religion. I talked with another caller you may have heard earlier about putting Christianity in schools and things like that. Doesn't matter if your kid's a Muslim or any other religion. He's going to read the 10 Commandments and possibly from the Bible. Not to mention President Trump's statement that in his first term, he wanted a total and complete ban on all Muslims entering this nation. Now, that was in his first term. I want a total and complete ban of all Muslims entering this nation. Now, he later corrected that because it was so unpopular to some nations like Syria and state sponsors of terror. But originally, he said, I want a total and complete ban of all Muslims. That's a ban solely based on religion. That's all it is. It's a ban based on religion. So First Amendment certainly is a right you're likely to lose under Trump, and I mean all facets of it: press, assembly, religion, and speech, way beyond just a burning of the flag. The next right, that's only the one. We got five more, and I got two honorable mentions. Number two, Fourth Amendment rights, protection against unwarranted searches and seizures. Now, in my video I'm making, I got plenty of clips of Trump talking about bringing back stop and frisk. Unwarranted searches and seizures. If you've done nothing wrong, the police do not have the right to stop you, search, frisk you, and possibly seize your property. Trump has made it clear he's a big fan of stop and frisk. So that is taking away your Fourth Amendment rights. And I believe the courts have deemed unwarranted searches and seizures, or better yet, stop and frisk, rather. I believe courts have already deemed stop and frisk as a violation of the Fourth Amendment. But President Trump has made it clear he wants to bring that back in places like Chicago and other liberal cities. So First Amendment, Fourth Amendment. Number three, man, I hate to say this one because I know my beloved MAGA would hate hearing this, but nevertheless, I gotta have a free speech program and say this. Your third right you're going to lose is the right to free and fair elections. There's no denying that ever since Trump has become a politician, since he's been on the scene, he has been fucking with the integrity of elections. Period. Every election he's been involved in, he's alleged cheating and tries to have something changed about that election. Even the ones between Dr. Oz and Fetterman over in Pennsylvania, he was alleging cheating was taking place in that election because he wanted Dr. Oz to win there. And Dr. Oz even came forth and stated, nobody's cheating here. But we know President Trump has been deeply involved in elections, pulling all sorts of strings behind the scene, doing all kinds of things that is pretty much illegal. And that's not just a 2020 election. Some of the things he's doing at this time, certainly a president asking for a state to gerrymander to give him 5 additional votes. That's not based on any census. That's not based on anybody moving back and forth, because Texas just did a redistrict in 2022. So to have them do it again, that's just straight up rigging that election there. So free and fair elections, you heard Trump tell his followers during his campaign, if you vote for me, you won't have to do it again. He even said that. But free and fair elections, obviously the 2020 election, there was a host of things from, fake electors, dead people voting, illegal immigrants voting, ballots found in rivers, mailbox ballot harvesting. He talked about all kinds of things that happened in the 2020 election. And here we are over 5 years later with absolutely none of that stuff he stated being proven. But here's the problem. During his first election, he had his own Attorney General Barr investigate all the claims of election fraud that he was alleging, and Barr came back and referred to his claims as bullshit. Do you think his Attorney General now, Pam Bondi, would do the same thing? He tried to have his own Vice President, Mike Pence, refuse to certify the election based on absolutely no proof of what he was saying. Do you think J.D. Vance could be counted on to do the same thing Mike Pence did? Free and fair elections is a right you're going to lose under Trump. Free and fair elections, you're going to lose that right. I don't know if it's going to start in the midterms or it's going to start in 2028, but free and fair elections. And then, of course, he's talking about getting rid of mail-in voting and things of that nature. We don't know how far it'll go, but we know Trump has made an incredible amount of allegations about how elections are not run properly while proving none of it. So free and fair elections being your third right you will lose. Number 4, this is where it's a little bit shaky. But because we've had Supreme Court Justices Alito and Clarence Thomas already speak on the subject, same-sex marriage, which is up on the docket for next year. The Supreme Court will rule on that. And I think most folks think that it's at the very least, likely to be chopped. And of course, when I said we're not going on feelings, but rather things Trump has said and the way MAGA feels, I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of MAGA that would be against getting rid of same-sex marriage, the same way they're not against getting rid of flag burning. So same-sex marriage being number 4. Number 5, I'm probably the most shaky on, but I still believe you're going to lose this under President Trump. Number 1 being First Amendment. Number 2 being you're going to lose your Fourth Amendment rights. Number 3 being you're going to lose free and fair elections. Number 4, same-sex marriage. And last but not least, number 5 being a national abortion ban. And the reason why I say a national abortion ban, it's very simple. Most of the abortions take place by using chemicals, drugs to stimulate the woman to go into contractions and all. Just ban the drug. That's one way. Ban the drug is part of it. The other way is, and it's hard not to agree with this to some degree. It's hard not to agree with if you are a criminal and you do something to a woman that's pregnant and you cause her to lose the life, lose the baby that she's carrying, you can be charged with murder for taking the life of an unborn child as a criminal. Why should a doctor be able to do it and get away with it? I think if you present that to the current Supreme Court we have, you could easily get an abortion ban. Why should doctors in liberal cities be allowed to get away with taking the life of a perfectly viable baby when if a criminal does it, he gets charged with murder? Why is a criminal getting treated differently than a doctor when neither one of them need to do that? So my guess is a national abortion ban. That's probably the only one that I think I'm a little shaky on, but I feel more confident than not, all 5 of these rights will be lost under President Trump's term. And the 2 honorable mentions, birthright citizenship, which probably should be number 6 as opposed to an honorable mention. He's already made it clear he wants to get rid of birthright citizenship. And that is a right. That is a right. It's in the Constitution. So that, if you are a child that was born to an immigrant parent, you may no longer be a citizen. Now, is he going to do it going forward or is he going to do it retroactive? I don't believe MAGA would have a problem at all if Trump said any child or anchor baby that has been born in the last 10 years is therefore no longer a citizen. I don't think MAGA would have a problem with it at all. That's why I'm saying it's not necessarily based on my feelings. It's based on things Trump has said and the mindset of MAGA. If Trump stated there's no reason for a child that is born to parents that have no citizenship to be a citizen itself, and therefore any child born in this country over the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, to parents that were not citizens themselves, that child is no longer a citizen of this country either. I don't think MAGA would have a problem with that. I don't think MAGA would have a problem with that at all. So the honorable mention being birthright citizenship, I absolutely believe. And last but not least, this is one I never would think I would say about a candidate that leads the Republican Party. But the last right I think that is on the chopping block, and when I say honorable mention, states' rights. I think that is a right that will be lost under the Trump administration. States' rights, particularly liberal states. If you are a liberal state and you're doing things the Trump administration does not like, they're going to use the federal government to take your right to do that away. States' rights. That is a right you are likely to lose under the Trump administration. You see what's going on now. He's going into states and taking control of the police department and facilities. Now he's doing it already. States' rights. I do believe that is a right that will be lost under the Trump administration. But that is more of a one I'm shaky on. That's why I said birthright citizenship and states' rights are honorable mentions. But the other 5 I stated, fair bit of confidence that those rights will be lost under the Trump administration. But I would like to hear from you folks. We'll go ahead and start going back to the program. I can't see the name here, but somebody said you're crazy. All right, fair enough. I wish I could get you on to talk to you and hear why you say that. MAGA means make it better for Americans, not. Yikes. Thank you for that, Papa Onaya. Appreciate that. Only a little over 3.5 years left, Tim. MAGA. I think it's going to be more than 3.5 years left. Might be I think with Trump, the presidency may be closer to a marriage than a term. Till death do your part is what I'm saying. Going back to the box, we'll go straight to Mike. Good evening, Mike. Welcome to the program. Tell me, am I off my rocker? Am I crazy for what I just said?
You're not crazy. You might be a little off your rocker, but you're not crazy for what you just said.
Give me where I am most likely off my rocker here. Which right?
None of them. Like I said, I don't think you were off your rocker about what you just said. You might be a little crazy in general, but not about what you just said.
So you do see quite a possibility that all 5 rights I mentioned could be lost.
I can never argue that you're wrong with this fucking nut. But I mean, I can never say that you're wrong when I'm watching this gentleman literally sit there and write an EO to try to take away people's rights to burn the flag. We don't care that it's made in the clothes. We don't care that it's made in the hats. We don't care about anything else. And as soon as he does it, his supporters go, well, something we probably need to do for a long time. Get the fuck out of here.
And that's the point I'm making, is that we were told for the entire term, ever since Trump took the old office again, the liberals are fear mongering. Nobody's going to lose any rights, privilege, or rights or freedoms or privileges under Trump. The liberals are fear mongering. The minute Trump said, "I'm going to make it illegal to burn the flag," well, like you just said, well, they do need to do that. So my first point is, if he can convince you that easy to take away the right of free speech, what else can he convince you to take away pretty easy? And that's when I came down this list, because MAGA already don't like this stuff. MAGA already don't like MAGA is overwhelmingly in favor of stop and frisk in liberal cities. That's your Fourth Amendment. MAGA is overwhelmingly in favor of Trump doing whatever he wants with elections. They don't like same-sex marriage, and they don't like a woman's right to choose. So I don't see where he would have any problem convincing MAGA to take these rights away.
Because MAGA, particularly white MAGA, see, as long as they believe it's not going to impact them, they don't give a shit. Well, what did I say wrong, Tim? No. Because here's why I say that. Because I don't believe that people go into shit knowingly, understanding that their position is going to impact them directly, would make that decision. Now, we've had people on your show that say, if that means my job as a federal worker, get the fuck out of here. You don't believe it's going to be you. There's no way in God's green earth somebody with that, and if they do, they're fucking nuts. There's nobody that's going to willingly go sign up to be set back.
That's the whole stance on most of the stuff Trump is doing, is that people are okay with it because they don't think it's going to happen to them. Like stop and frisk. MAGA is overwhelmingly in favor of bringing back stop and frisk, but they're talking about doing it in liberal cities. In fact, most people who are in favor of stop and frisk are people who have no chance of worrying about being stopped and frisked, because nobody wants to be on their way to work and have a cop pull them out of their car and they're sitting on the curb while a cop is going through their car for 30 minutes. No, there's nobody that wants that to happen to them, but they're okay when it happens to other people.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck, Tim. Yeah. I mean, listen, I told you, they don't have any empathy. They don't have any sympathy. These are narcissistic behaviors. These are behaviors that have been rooted in this country for centuries. And it is who they are. It's who they are. The people that believe in this shit, it just tells you everything about them. They can't push back on things that they said that they fought for. If you were in the military, you should be offended by this shit. If you fought for this country at any point in time and this doesn't offend you, you are those things I've always said you are, because there's no middle ground on this, Tim. There is no more middle ground. There's literally no more middle ground. Where is the middle ground now? And I know you've said before, well, I got to put on my bullshit ass, punk ass, funky ass.
It's getting hard. It's getting hard. I get what you're saying. It's getting kind of hectic, to quote that 90s song from Rhythm with a Snap. It's getting kind of hectic. It is getting harder. Yeah.
That's a good one. That was a good one. Yeah, I give you props on. Okay, I give you props on.
It's getting kind of hectic to try to push back on some of this stuff, because now that he can just simply say, I decided to go against what the Supreme Court ruled as free speech. Well, shit, what's stopping him from doing it again? I mean, if you're going to turn a blind eye to him clearly going against what the Supreme Court said, just like TikTok, I really enjoy being on TikTok talking to you folks, but the Congress ruled that TikTok was supposed to be taken down. Trump just said, I'm going to go against Congress and do it anyway. So if he's able to do that when we like it, he can do it anytime.
And again, yeah, you're right. And DenCal said something important. You guys didn't speak on it enough. I wish you guys would have. So DenCal, if you're going to, everything he's done, he's done it by executive order under declaration of emergency.
Right.
And now, there wasn't an emergency in California. There wasn't an emergency in D.C. There wasn't an emergency on the border. All these things that he declared emergencies. So here's the thing, Twisted, you keep talking to me. If you ever want to talk, just request and come talk to me. But I assure you, you're not prepared to debate me on any of this shit.
I like Twisted. Me and Twisted disagree on everything, but I like Twisted.
Yep. But here's the thing. Twisted is like a lot of MAGA supporters. They do the whole absolutisms whataboutisms, taking things out of contextualizing shit. But they don't want to listen or read in depth of what they're talking about. They just go on their emotions because they're so vested in somebody that's not vested in them.
Yeah.
They're vested in a man who is not vested in them. They're vested in administration. The only thing you have in common with the Trump administration is that you're white because you're not rich. So you think because you're white that all those things that they're espousing to this country are going to come down to you. You're not. You're poor or upper poor.
Damn. Hold on real quick. I want to respond to something. We'll continue talking. In the comments, someone said, let's talk about New York City. What's wrong with New York City? We got the highest crime wave not since the 70s or 60s. And someone else said, yes, there is an emergency when the crime rate is out of control. No. We're not suggesting that there's not a lot of crime in D.C. When we say it's not an emergency, fact is Trump skipped several cities that are worse than D.C. In fact, the National Guard that are in D.C., many of them come from states that have cities that are worse than D.C. itself. Tennessee and Louisiana and even Ohio got cities in their states that are worse than D.C. Why would you send your National Guard to a city that's less violent than the ones you have in your own state, hundreds of miles away? So that's the point we're making, is he can deem any damn thing as an emergency.
Right. Well, but here's the thing, though, Tim, and this is where I like to step back. It's funny. Think about this now. Trump supporters, white America always talks about crime, and they talk about crime and they go black, and then they go to the Democratic-led cities. But crime is universal. Because if they really cared about crime, then they would really focus on the crime that's impact. And they never focus on their fucking communities when it comes to crime, which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
How you never talk about the communities that you say you want to make America great again. So you need to start looking at white men, how they're putting their hands all over these children, but you never hear them bring it up. You never hear them bring it up. They always talk about black and brown bad, and they never talk about the issues in their own community because they don't even acknowledge it. So you can't acknowledge something. You can't even address something you don't acknowledge. Instead, they talk about, well, Democrats.
Someone in the comments, Mike, somebody in the comments said, we don't have crime in red states. Wow.
Yeah, you see what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. But I can go to you can turn on that monitor behind you right now. You could turn on that monitor behind you right now and type in anything that I said. They don't care about their children. They don't care about their women. They don't care about the epidemic that is happening with the pill crises in their communities. They don't even address that, right? Yeah. They don't address it at all. Instead, they want to go crime and that Democrats are okay with crime, and that's their narrative. Because if I told you that you had a decrease of 30% of anything, right, that needs to come down is good.
Okay.
Who says that people are happy with crime levels? But what we're not happy about is to demonize everyone else and not ever look at yourself. You demonize every other community and you never look at your own community. Who leads the country in a petty theft?
Petty.
Who leads the country in store theft?
White collar crime.
Who leads? Yeah. Who was the leading demographic in shopping theft? Who's the leading demographic, Tim?
Well, I'm assuming there's more white people in the country than anybody else.
White women. But what do they put on TV? They put on people, black and brown folks running in the stores, but they never talk about the other things. And again, when we bring them up, we're race baiting. When we bring them up, oh please. So how do you look at one stat and not look at them all?
Because
it's
based on an agenda. Because it's based on an agenda.
That's your intention.
Yeah.
Your intention and your agenda is what drives you to that one stat. But it does. But you fail to. And then when their children are acting up, they're just being kids. Will be kids. I guarantee you right now. And if they would ever admit it, most white folks on this app, they've been drinking with their parents or their uncles or at their friend's house, drinking and partying by the pool and smoking and doing all that shit. At the time, they were just kids being kids. Boys will be boys. They're just doing their things, right? But the minute another culture is doing something, it's demonized to the point where they're out of control and they're lawless and all this. It's just sad because when they ask those questions and we push back, we're not pushing back on crime, but crime has been in this country for a long time.
Yeah. And while you were talking, here's the FBI, this is a CIUS report. Now, this is from 2020. Violent crime rate per 100,000 residents. And this is as of 2020. As you see this map of America behind me, the darker the state, the higher the crime rate. 800 or more violent crimes per 1,000. 800 or more violent crimes per 100,000 is the top. The darkest states, that's their number. The very light states is less than 200 violent crimes per 100,000. Now, when you look at this map, you can clearly see it's not going along the lines of what President Trump often says. They got Tennessee, Louisiana, and Arkansas pretty damn dark. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and Missouri is not that much further off from it. So this is something you don't normally hear Trump talk about.
What's that other dark one up top, Tim? What's that other dark one up there?
Right behind Minnesota. What is that? South Dakota. And I've heard there's a lot of crime in South Dakota. Drugs. There's a whole lot of Native Americans, all them folks. DJ Julio talks about that. He lives in that state. South Dakota has a lot of drugs in that city, in that state. That's Christy Noem's homeland.
Yeah. What's the population in that state?
Oh, it's pretty small. I don't know what the population of South Dakota.
I know. Tim, you know a lot of this I already know. I'm just asking for the other 298 viewers. By the way, tap the screen share like. Let's get Tim up to 100,000. Let's get Tim up to 100,000. We should be able to do that fairly easy. But here's my point, Tim. We are never going to get to have a real conversation if the only thing they ever talk about is demonizing everybody else. And let's remember in 2024 in Pizza Lover, I don't know everything. I just read, my guy. Imagine that. In 2024, and you can look this up, Pizza Lover, when, and matter of fact, it was in October of 2024 when Trump said, when he was talking about the enemy of the state, and he talked about using the National Guard and even the military on U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
And
he's gung-ho to do that. There are so many times Trump is talking. I mean, he is gung-ho about using the military on American citizens. He said that so many times at this point, it's pretty clear he wants to do that.
Yeah, well, but again, when we say these things and they say we're fear-mongering, when we say these things before they're happening, they're saying, well, you're just fear-mongering. It's like, actually, I'm just listening to what he's saying. I'm just watching what he's doing.
Okay, real quick, before we hold on a second. MAGA reacts in the comments. You said, because MAGA reacts was talking on instant message, and he was trying to make it sound like Chicago's more violent than St. Louis, and he was doing so by taking the south side of Chicago and comparing. Because I told him, Chicago has 10 times the population of St. Louis, but they have about St. Louis has about a third of the murders of Chicago, so it has a lot of murders for a much smaller town. And so to make a point, he said, well, the south side of Chicago has a population near to St. Louis, and they have as many murders. And I'm like, you can't take part of a city to make a point. So that's why he's saying in the comments now, he's saying, funny how those red states are the smallest. Violent is violent. It got nothing to do with the size of it.
That's what I'm saying, Tim. And that's what I'm saying. Instead of just coming to the conclusion that, first of all, this country was founded on violence. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
This country was founded on violence, and it wasn't us. This country was founded on violence, and it wasn't the Native Americans. This country was founded on violence, and it wasn't the Chinese immigrants, and it wasn't the Japanese immigrants. So let's just be clear on where the violence was rooted in. And most of the prisons were full of white men. What are we talking about? They don't want to acknowledge anything that this country was founded on other than black and brown bad. And that's all they do. They couldn't have a debate about the realities because they're afraid of the realities. They're afraid of what it means. That's why they're trying to change the history books. That's why they're trying to soften slavery.
It's interesting. When I gave those 5 things, you're like the 5 the 5 rights you're likely to lose under Trump. When I talked about freedom of speech, that's when I meant to put it. Books. That's another method
Yeah.
of, method of the media that you're losing is books. Books are being blocked and banned all over the damn place.
That's what they're doing. They're doing it in Florida.
Yeah.
They want to soften up slavery to make themselves feel better.
Yeah,
and now listen, when I say that, I can also say this. As they're talking to us about crime in these major cities, and they never talk, they're literally living what I'm saying right now. They don't want to address anything that's going on in their communities, and they want to hold this narrative about black bad, brown bad, deport, all these things, crimes and murders and all this, but they don't want to talk about anything else. And then they want to take their history and whitewash it so nobody ever remembers the savagery. The savagery. I'm going to say it one more time. The absolute savagery. And then they try to tell us that we're living in the past when we're on this. Tim, in the course of a week, how many times have you called the hard N-word, Tim, in the course of a week?
On this show?
On this app alone.
It can be a bit much.
No, give them a number, Tim.
I don't know.
Because see, they don't.
In the course of, during the course of a live, it might happen 4 or 5 times.
Okay, so 4 or 5 times we will be reminded about this word, the hard ER, that is synonymous with racism and bigotry and hatred and redlining and all the brutality that we've had to deal with over the years, and Jim Crow and the destruction of our cities when we try to go build something. But then they say, how come you can't move on? My question is to you, if you are our age or younger, and you can still use those words and you know how to apply them to try to hurt somebody, you are your ancestors.
And I'm about to go live. My next platform, I'm actually going to be starting to go live on Truth Social and possibly X. So that's probably going to increase a little bit. Certainly on Truth Social. With the program that I run, with this audience, I'm going to probably get a little bit more of that on Truth Social.
Yeah, and you know what? And I'm going to say this too, because, and you're right, Tim, and this is the part that I'm talking about. So people that are listening and want to come to a conclusion or a judgment about who I am, my character, what I'm speaking is history. What I'm not going to allow you to do is pass judgment on Black history in this country without addressing white Americans' history in this country, because you can't separate the two. You cannot separate the two. Things that are happening in our communities were explicitly done and explicitly organized. So don't act like Black folks just walked over to these neighborhoods and these ghettos and decided that this is what we want to be. And so the idea that they want to just wipe their hands clean about historically what's happened in this country and what President Trump is telling you he's trying to get back to. And if you voted for him and you're okay with the job he's doing, then you're okay with cruelty.
They're not just okay with it. They're really happy. I mean, MAGA's really happy. I mean, yeah, there's cruelty in it, but they believe there's a bunch of different reasons why they support cruelty.
No. Stop that shit. There's no but. You said, yeah, there's cruelty in it, but there's no but. We got to stop doing that.
Hold on. Let me tell you why I'm saying but. They're favorable to cruelty to immigrants. And I say but they look at it like if you didn't want to be treated cruel, you shouldn't enter the country illegally. They're favorable to cruelty to what's going on in DC. But if you didn't really want to be treated cruel, you shouldn't be committing crimes. They're favorable to draconian punishments. But their belief is you don't have to worry about this if you don't violate what we have out there.
I know that that's what their belief is, but you and I both know that their belief is not structured in facts. And so if we're gonna, it's not, because if we're gonna have a conversation, then you can't on this.
I don't know if he got a call. We'll give it a minute.
Considering people illegal when they don't understand the factual nature of immigration and the immigration laws. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
When they say it, we got to stop it at the foundation, because once you move forward with that conversation and allowing somebody to believe that their stance on immigration and legal versus illegal is accurate, the rest of the conversation is flawed, Tim.
Kind of like a fruit from the poisonous tree is what you're saying.
Right. We can't move forward having a conversation when their foundation isn't rooted in facts. It's rooted in opinions. It's rooted in snippets and talking points and portions of facts. But when you read it all, and MAGA Reacts is one of the best at it. He never finishes a factual. That's why he's easy to debunk, because you're like, yeah, but you didn't read the whole thing. You didn't read the whole thing. You didn't play the whole clip. You didn't listen to his whole comment. Like, you can't push back on the fact that Donald Trump has said he will deploy the National Guard or military on U.S. citizens. That is a fact. Is that a fact or not?
And he said it over and over again. I got to move it on. Dennis Calhoun says racism is a mental illness. Yeah, I do agree with. If you think that listen, if we can suggest that a person who is born a boy but think they're a girl is mentally ill, yeah. If you're born a human being and you think your skin color somehow makes you superior, yeah, that's just as crazy as what you're trying to suggest the other side is dealing with. So I agree with the mental illness part.
But I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna land my plane here. The one thing, first of all, I don't believe it's a mental illness when we talk about a gender assignment. But the one thing that we know is taught for sure, the one thing we know, there's been study after study over generation after generation. If you put 50 children in a room from every different nationality,
they're not
when
racist.
they're in kindergarten, they won't give a shit about none of this shit we talking about.
That is true.
They don't care about none of this. You go to if you don't believe me, go to a kindergarten. Everybody's kids was in kindergarten at some point. They didn't give a fuck what the color of the other kid was until the parents or whoever started to influence that child into their ideologies. Otherwise, we're not having this conversation.
Yeah, both religion and racism are taught. It's not in the person. They have to be taught.
It's not in the person. So that's what it is. And at the end of the day, if we're not better, if we're not pushing back, if we're not holding each other accountable, I'll never sit idle and let some white person tell me what's hurting our community, but they can't tell me anything positive about it or anything about their own community. I'm not having that conversation with them, because those are two things you got to know if you're going to have a conversation with another culture or race about their community. That's a lot of fucking arrogance, Tim.
Well said, Mike. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
All right. 100K, baby.
100K. Oh, we did do that, huh? I didn't expect that to happen. Thank you, folks that are tapping the screen. Wow, I was not expecting that. Looking in the comments, though, a man having a PP up his butt got something wrong. I heard this the other day, because I'm not a big Bible reader in modern times, but I heard that, because you often hear homosexuality is wrong because it goes against the Bible and things like that. From what I've heard, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but homosexuality was not demonized in the Bible until like the 1940s. Apparently, Bibles that were written before the 1940s, homosexuality was not even mentioned in it. Certainly not in a negative way, suggesting that God didn't favor it and all of that stuff. Marriages between a man and a woman. Apparently, that was not originally in there until the 1940s. And I forgot which group put it in there, but that was not originally in there. That might be some trivia for you to research, but they've made that a sin before God when apparently it was not in there. I see in the comments, Steve Politzer says that's a lie. When I say I heard, I'm not saying it is for certain, but it's worth researching. Look it up. But I did hear that homosexuality was not in the Bible before the 1940s. I'm not a homosexual. I was born a man, but I'm 100% woman. Huh? I see somebody in the comments have been saying trans for Trump and all this stuff. Look, if you want to make that a subject, go for it, but I'll move it on. Just because you seek asylum doesn't mean you get it. That is true. You must prove to U.S. immigration authorities that you have a well-founded fear of persecution in your home country. I don't think any of that matters under Trump. I do not think any of that matters whatsoever under President Trump. I believe under President Trump, you're not going to get asylum. If you come from, I made a video about this yesterday, and I stated that if you are an immigrant in this country, and I'm not just talking about an illegal immigrant, I mean even a documented legal immigrant. If you are an immigrant in this country, from the undocumented all the way up to the green card holders, if you have a court case or if you have court cases and hearings coming up so that you have to do what's right to stay in the country, forget about it. Forget about it. The fix is in. Um, those court cases are not going to go in your favor. Period. I mean, especially if you're a brown immigrant, you're not going to be allowed to stay here. Period. The chances of any of those court cases going in your favor, especially for the asylum seekers, I mean, it's probably going to be damn near 0% approval under President Trump. My opinion, my humble advice to those folks: either self-deport right now or stay on the run in hopes of another administration coming in 3.5 years later and doing something that is more favorable to you. But going to court, that's just a trap. Going to court hoping that the judge is going to rule in your favor and shit, that shit is just a trap. Even if you do find a judge that rules in your favor, it's a good chance they're going to appeal that shit and judge shop until they can find one that'll rule against you. You see what's happening to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Every time he gets a decent ruling, they just judge shop, appeal it, and go to the next level and find somebody that's going to rule against him. Yeah, in my opinion, either self-deport or stay on the run and hide in the shadows and hope you can get in. You can stay for 3.5 years until another administration comes in and rules and does something better for you. Now, Kristi Noem stated that if you self-deport, you can one day come back, but if you don't, you can never come back. Disregard that. Disregard that, because if you get a favorable administration in 3.5 years, they're going to toss out most of the hardcore stuff that Trump is doing anyway. If you get a more favorable administration, immigration, they're going to probably deem that a whole lot of things that Trump is doing right now are illegal, and they're going to overturn some of that stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if another administration in the future invited Kilmar Abrego Garcia back, because they've really just destroyed that man's life. But certainly some of these grandmas and people that's got kids and families in this country. So when she says, talking about Kristi Noem, when she says if you self-deport, we'll give you $1,000 and you can come back one day, but if you don't self-deport and we catch you, you can never come back. If you self-deport, you're not getting back in under the Trump administration, period. You can do everything right by that administration, the self-deport and all that. You're not going to get the $1,000 either, by the way, because there are deportees that are currently in Mexico and other countries that have platforms on TikTok where people are donating the money to wherever they're living now. And they're making it clear that $1,000 is not true. People are not getting that. So if you take Kristi Noem's advice, you're going to be treated just like somebody they caught running across the desert. It's just like if you get caught robbing a bank, or the next day you decide to go and turn yourself in for robbing a bank. They're going to treat you the same, period. They're not going to treat you any better if you self-deport than they are if they catch you hiding out in front of a Home Depot or something. The treatment is going to be the same. So like I said, if you either self-deport or you can hide out in the shadows and hope to get away with it until 3.5 years and maybe get a more favorable administration. But if they deport you, or if you self-deport under the Trump administration, you're not getting back in. They're not going to let you back in. The Constitution says due process. Well, right now, that's kind of something we don't always concern ourselves with. Trump is not always concerned with the Constitution because it also favors birthright citizenship, and he's not adhering to that either. And that's why I had the discussion with you folks a few minutes ago about 5 rights that you are likely to lose under the Trump administration. And I feel confident about that. I'm not making those up from liberal fear mongering or how I feel, feelings over facts. No, I'm making this stuff up. I'm coming up with this stuff based on what Trump has did, what Trump has said, and how his supporters, MAGA, feels. And out of all of the 5 rights I presented, MAGA would not have a problem with losing any of those. MAGA would be totally fine. If Trump overturns gay marriage, you really think there's going to be a whole lot of MAGA saying that was wrong? Really? Do you think there's going to be any more MAGA that would have a problem with Trump overturning same-sex marriage than they do with him overturning the Supreme Court flag burning law? It'd be the same way, which is why I stated, if he can convince MAGA that quickly that it's okay to override the Supreme Court and take away your First Amendment right, The question becomes obvious. What else can he convince them that what else can he convince them of in terms of rights that you have now that you don't need? I don't think it's that hard in this country to convince person A that person B should lose a few rights. I don't think it's that hard to do that. I mentioned stop and frisk. Trump is really gung ho on stop and frisk, a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment protection against unwarranted searches and seizures. How hard do you think it would be for Trump to convince MAGA that in liberal cities they should be open to being randomly profiled and stopped and frisked? You think MAGA would have a problem with that? High crime in that city. The police got to do their jobs. Do you think MAGA will really push back against that? So when I say these rights are based on how MAGA feels and what Trump has said, I'm telling you it is. I don't think MAGA would have any problem with it happening. Now, they don't want it happening in their own neighborhoods. But if Trump said it to get crime under control in Chicago, I have to give the police the right to stop and frisk because some of these criminals are really good at hiding guns or hiding drugs. If the police feels they're suspicious, we got to give the police the right to make that stop, even if there's nothing. MAGA's not going to argue against that. We're talking about the same president after the Mandalay Bay shooting that stated sometimes you need to take away guns before taking people to court without giving them due process. And MAGA barely had a problem with that. So you know they're not going to have a problem with taking away, stopping and frisking people in liberal cities. Not a problem at all. Michael Gilleron, I think it says 4108. Thank you for the super chat. Says full data not available yet, but current numbers are suggesting no decrease in naturalizations for immigrants since January 2025 compared to January 2024. No decrease in naturalizations for immigrants. I'd have to see the data, but I'm going to give you the same statement that you often hear when data is presented from CNN or data is presented from MSNBC to MAGA. There's no way for me to say it any clearer than this. I don't trust the data coming from Trump. I just don't. I mean, after seeing him say his inauguration crowd was bigger than anybody else's, he won the 2020 election by a landslide. The specifications he gave for his size and weight regarding his mugshot. I mean, any numbers that come from the Trump administration, I just, me personally, maybe you disagree with this, but me personally, I don't believe numbers coming from the Trump administration are credible. I mean, we got jobs numbers a month or two ago, his first and second quarter job numbers. He fired the lady who provided the job numbers. So the next person that gives you the job numbers is a friendly. I'm not going to buy those numbers. I'm just simply saying, I'm not totally disagreeing with you when you say the full data is not available, but yet what the current numbers suggest no decrease in naturalization for immigrants since January. But I'm going to say when numbers come from President Trump, it's hard to take them at face value because he lies in regards to numbers so much. I mean, I got video of him saying that thousands of people were murdered in Chicago in a single year. That's never happened. Chicago's never had over 1,000 murders in 1 year. I mean, there's videos of him saying that. So his numbers are pretty wild. And I see in the comments, Corey says, I feel the same way about Democrats. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many instances where you can prove Trump gave numbers that were greatly exaggerated, such as him suggesting he ended like 7 or 8 wars. I don't think there's any country in the world that believes that he ended 7 or 8 wars that he's going around saying right now. That's not true. That's not based on reality. So his numbers are challenging at best. Looking in the comments though, he doesn't know how to tell the truth, says Stacy. I'm gonna leave it at that. But yeah, his numbers coming from Trump are not credible. It's if the numbers can be adjusted to favor Trump, expect them to be adjusted. When it came to finding waste, fraud, and abuse that Doge was apparently doing, them numbers were proven to be way off the mark. They were actually replacing some savings by Doge that were in the millions with billions. I mean, they were way off the mark. So any numbers coming from the Trump administration should be taken with a grain of salt. Yes, Chicago's Cook County reached more than 1,000 homicides in 2021. Is that right? He says that with 1087, If that is true, I stand corrected. I've never heard that Chicago had more than 1,000 homicides in a year. Okay, all right, I'll give you the win. I'd have to look it up though. Mexico people and others in the Aztec Empire, which existed before the formation of the modern nation states of Mexico, the term Mexican. Okay, you're telling me how what Mexican means? Going back to the box, but like I said, the numbers coming from Trump are often exaggerated and not accurate. And even MAGA realizes that they just don't care about it. It's just not a big concern. But even MAGA realizes Trump's numbers are off. MAGA reacts. Do you trust all the numbers coming from Trump?
No, he always exaggerates,
Yeah,
but that's
okay.
his job to exaggerate.
Yeah. So what do you?
He's a politician.
Yeah, but because he speaks more than the average politician, that means he lies more. I mean, Biden, I'm sure told plenty of lies, but Biden didn't go before the cameras even 1/10 as much as Trump. So if Trump goes in front of the camera 10 times as much and he's lying like that every time, he's gonna tell a whole lot more lies.
Like I told you 1,000 times, exaggerating isn't quite lying, but it's not quite telling the truth either.
What the hell does that mean?
That means you don't have. I don't know why you guys always take everything so literal with Trump.
I mean,
It's like I don't know what to tell you.
so if he gives you numbers in order to pass legislation or in order to pass a law, and you can't take the numbers at face value, as you say, don't take them literal, then how do you know whether or not to agree with the law if the information he's giving you for what he's basing the law on is not accurate?
When you look at the actual stats from the actual people that do this for a living,
Why can't
Trump's
you take them
job
from
is
him?
to make everything look better by exaggerating how well he's doing, and the media job is to call him out on it
Yeah,
and
I
tell
don't.
us what his actual.
Yeah, you and I totally disagree on the difference of trying to say an exaggeration is not a lie. If you know your numbers are wrong when you're giving them out, it's a lie. Period. It's a lie. If you know for sure what you're saying is more than what it really is, like when he gave his exaggerated numbers for his mugshot about his height and weight, you know that ain't true. You're lying. It's not exaggerating. You're telling a lie.
I got you. And sometimes it is straight up lying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just exaggerating. And it depends on the situation. It depends on what he's talking about. Of course, with his height, it's completely a lie. But, for him to say that the job numbers are good for him to say they're like incredible when they're just good, that's just exaggerating.
That I could
But for
kind
him to say
of yeah, I could
when they're negative, they're bad, that's lying.
I could kind of work with, your statement on exaggeration from going from good job numbers to saying that they're great or something. I could kind of work with that. But when you start giving actual numbers or saying something like my inauguration crowd was the largest in history, that's just a flat out lie. You know that ain't true when you're saying it. I mean, you know that is 100% false that your inauguration crowd is the largest in history. You know that ain't true. That ain't an exaggeration. That's a lie.
Yeah, and it's a white lie, so most people don't give a fuck. But the left likes to call them out on it, and they're wasting their energy. How about you call them out on actual lies that matter?
So we got levels. So we got exaggeration. We got white lies. You got all these levels of lying.
Everything.
Huh?
There's levels to everything. Yet you guys are like, everything's at level 12 with you guys. When some things are level 1 and some things are level 5 and some things are level 12.
Yeah,
But you waste your energy on the 1s and 5s. When we get to the 12s, no one takes you seriously.
Yeah, I don't have any level to it. To me, you either telling the truth or you telling a lie. Like when he said COVID was going to be just gone by April 2021, based on nothing at all. No medical professional had told him that COVID-19 was just going to go away by April. When he went on TV, that's not an exact. That's a lie. That's based on nothing. And you went
okay. All right, hold on. That's not a lie because no one can predict the future, not even Trump. And he was hopeful we were all hopeful that it would just pass us over really quick, but it took longer than we wanted. Well,
Really?
It's just hopeful thinking, and this is where I get mad when you're saying him predicting the future is a fucking just because he's predicting something positive. Doesn't make him a liar.
Why would you? Okay, wait a minute. You got people dropping dead all over the place and claiming to be sick, and you just gonna go out here with no knowledge whatsoever of this virus and just tell people it's going to be gone in a few months. You don't even know what it is yet. Wow, and that ain't a lie.
No, you weren't dropping that like that at the beginning. That was only later on. I mean, this is the other problem. You're like convoluting because you're Monday morning quarterbacking, and you're saying, oh, all these people dropped dead. We barely had any infections when he said that.
How many
people on cruise liners were the only ones that were sick at that time? It hasn't really hit us so hard at that point.
How many viruses have we had that came and went away in the span of a few months? Has that ever happened at all?
I mean, as far as I know, COVID's the only one that's really stuck around and really hurt.
No, we
us.
got the flu, we got influenza, we got tons of viruses. How many viruses have you ever heard that came and went away in a
under Trump, and it came and went, and like only one person got it.
What are you talking about?
There was that one guy that got Ebola under Trump, and we were worried about it for like a day, and it went away.
Ebola was around during Obama. That virus, we're talking about a new virus. Something nobody's ever heard of. Have we ever had a novel virus come around and disappear within a few months? Has that ever happened in the history of mankind?
I mean, every time. The 19 other times, the 18 other times. This is COVID-19. So COVID 1 through 18 came and went, and no one even fucking knew about them. And unfortunately, number 19 was the serious one. I mean... That was the first time in 100 years since the Spanish flu where we had a fucking virus like that.
Okay, it's never happened. We've never had a virus come and go in a couple months. And by the way, like I just stated to you, Trump...
What other virus stayed forever like COVID did?
I mean, the measles is still around. It ain't gone. I mean, now that some people are not getting vaccinated, it's making a comeback. The measles are still around, so is chickenpox. Those viruses, polio still exist.
It's not as infectious as CV-19 and not as...
Yeah, because people are getting vaccinated. If people stop getting vaccinated, the measles, polio, and chickenpox will come right back. It's because people have been getting vaccinated the whole damn time.
I got you, but... See, this is the other issue. Like, you're talking about just viruses being around. I'm talking about a virus affecting us the way CV-19 did. And, this is where we always have issues. I don't know if you do this on purpose.
What do you mean? What do you mean by affecting us the way CV... What do you mean? Affecting us how?
What do you mean? A ton of people unalive, millions unalive.
You don't think that happened when the measles and you don't think polio and the measles and chickenpox was doing the same thing when it first came out? You know people die from polio? It's probably worse than C-19.
That was 100 years ago, and since then we've had a lot of viruses come and go that no one's even heard of because they only lasted a couple. Like I said, CV 1 through 18. Have you ever heard of when the
point I'm making is this: there is no reason whatsoever for Trump to go to the American public and say something that fucking optimistic based on nothing. Period. It was based on nothing.
Optimistic. Like you want him to be like.
Truthful.
Truthful. This is going to be the end.
No, I want him to be truthful. How about that?
I guess. I think it pays to be a little optimistic. But that's how I live my life. I like to be a little optimistic, hope for the best, and prepare for the worst.
So during some
world ending tomorrow. I mean, you guys are literally like betting against America every day because you want America to fail so you could say Trump's the failure. It's kind of getting annoying.
I don't think telling the public something optimistic just for the sake of being optimistic when it's based on nothing is actually doing what's best for America like you do. Because they're going to be really disappointed when they find out what you said didn't come true and you had no reason to say that shit to begin with. I don't see how that's doing what's right for America the way you're making it sound.
Dude, you say that because only Trump. Most people are...
Nobody else is doing that because nobody else is doing something like that.
Most people are optimistic. What are you talking about?
At the presidential level?
The American dream is an optimistic dream of you having a bright future in America. So, you have to be optimistic. It's a thing that people will always rather have versus doom and gloom every day.
I don't want somebody to be optimistic to me when the possibility is death. when the possibility is that I might be able to do something to stay alive longer, but they're telling me it ain't gonna be a problem. I don't want somebody to be optimistic to me in a situation like that. Now, if I'm broke and somebody says, "Don't worry, things will get better tomorrow," that's optimism I can deal with. But telling me a pandemic is just gonna go away when you don't know anything about viruses, I don't want that kind of optimism.
I mean, he didn't know either way. He didn't know if it was gonna wait. We didn't
So
know
how about not
anything at that
speaking?
time.
So then, how about you don't speak on it?
Yeah, but Trump doesn't have that ability to just not speak. You know, he doesn't know what it means to have the right to remain silent.
So let me ask you, what do you think about the flag burning? The Supreme Court ruled as free speech being overturned.
I mean, I'm 50-50. I think burning a flag is very disrespectful of America, and as much as I don't like, limiting free speech in any way, I can make an exception for flag burning because it's very disrespectful and really, you're not
What
actually
about
silencing
Trump?
someone. You're just stopping them from burning a flag.
Okay, what about Trump posting a picture of Biden when he was president, hog-tied in the trunk of a car? Do you see that as disrespectful to the country?
That's disrespectful to Biden. But yeah, maybe it was disrespectful to the country. I don't know. He didn't. I found it funny, so I'm a bad judge when it comes to that.
You found tying up an old man in the back of a pickup truck, which is kind of the precursor to doing something violent to a person. You saw that and bust up laughing.
Yeah, because it was funny.
What's next?
It was funny.
What's next?
But the way you just said it,
Yeah.
it sounds like
That's what normally happens. When somebody puts you in the back of a car hogtied, there usually is not a candy bar at the end of it. It's usually something violent. You see in a mob movie, somebody stands over the car with a butcher knife, putting wounds in you. It's normally not a good ending or something like that. So, I mean, when you say you found that as humorous,
Go arrest that guy.
huh?
If you consider that conspiracy that he really meant that he's going to do that, then the Secret Service should go arrest him. I mean, me and you both know it's a joke. He did it to make people laugh. If he really meant the president harm, then he should be in jail.
Yeah, I don't think that should ever be.
Did you at any point think that was his intention to actually go kidnap the president, tie him up, and you think that guy with the truck did that to threaten the president in any way, or he was just being funny?
No, that's a good question. I don't think that person wanted to harm the president, but I don't think the person burning the flag wants to harm the country either. I mean, I can use your same logic to suggest burning the flag, the person doing that is not actually trying to harm the country. It's exactly what you stated. It's disrespectful. Just like posting a picture of a current president hog-tied in the back of a truck. It ain't about you want to do harm to him. It's disrespectful.
Honestly, it's not really the burning of the flag, it's where they do it. They do it in protests that are also, very volatile and can turn violent at any second. And adding burning flags to it doesn't make people feel happy and optimistic,
It ain't meant to make people feel happy and optimistic.
Burning a flag at home, I have no objection to that. But to do it in the middle of in the public square, I'm not a big favor of any kind of anything set on fire in a public setting.
I'm fine with the argument that it should be against the law to burn shit in public. I agree with that. But do you agree with putting a person who burns a flag in a prison for a year?
No, that's excessive. I think they should be punished, but not like that.
Okay, so you don't agree with everything Trump is saying.
I came on here to talk about my Chicago stats. Like, you guys are on here talking like we invented Chicago being dangerous. Like,
no, I don't think you invented Chicago being dangerous. Chicago is dangerous, but just like you said about a year in prison, Trump's statements and the right's statements about Chicago are excessive. They make it sound like Chicago's the most violent city in America, and it is not under any category. It's not the most violent city, but if you ask the right, name a violent city in Chicago in America, Chicago always comes up. It's not the most violent city.
Because the stats you use are bullshit.
What stats are you using?
Forget Chicago. Cook County is the most dangerous county in the United States, followed by LA County. See, when you look at the county as a whole, it gets a lot worse. But looking at Chicago by itself, there's enough rich areas mixed with poor areas.
So what is he
where
gonna
the
do?
rich
Flood the
areas
whole?
elite.
We gonna flood the whole county with national? You realize how big Cook County is? And LA County is even bigger.
Well, Chicago's also really big. That's why the stats are bullshit, because it's such a big city. Like, you know, in Miami, like you remember I told, like I took the South Side and used it as a sample because it's almost the same as St. Louis. Like I looked at both cities, size, population, everything, almost exactly the same. That's why I compared them. And every city, every county, every neighborhood I picked was right next to each other. I didn't even pick one from north, then one from south, one from east, one from west. They're all next to each other. Because here in Miami, like the South Side would be its own city in Miami. Like you come to Miami, you have the city of Miami, which is downtown. You have North Miami, which is its own city. You have North Miami Beach, which is its own city. You have Miami Beach, which is its own city with its own mayor, own laws. You have Miami Garden, Miami Lakes. Like Miami's divided into 20 fucking cities. So
here's the problem.
Chicago would be fucked up too, because the layout and the sample size would be all over the place.
Here's the problem, MAGA. Fact is violent in Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles may be. We know there are plenty of violent, very violent cities that happen to be in conservative states, and they get zero mention from the Republican Party. So we can finagle and play games with the numbers, but there is no excuse for that. Why are you totally ignoring? I'm talking to just about everybody on the right. Why are you totally ignoring violent cities that happen to be in Republican states? They don't mention them at all. So it makes it look like you don't really care about violent cities. You only care about liberal places. I mean, you don't hear the right say anything about Memphis. It does not come up at all. And that is a very violent city. Why is that?
I'm going to go to my first point, because the media, which is more controlled by the left, doesn't really highlight. Like,
is there any media controlled by the right at all?
I mean, there is.
Why don't they say anything about it?
Smaller cities don't make the news like Chicago does. I mean, every 4th of July, I Googled people shot in Chicago, and it's always like 50 people shot, 7 or 10 unalived. I mean, it doesn't fail. Every 4th of July,
but that's my point.
100 people shot.
But that's my point. Why don't you Google how many people got shot in Memphis? You go straight to Chicago. Why don't you Google how many people got shot in St. Louis? You're literally targeting Chicago.
I did Google St. Louis. I Googled St. Louis, and it was like 10. It was never... Chicago's been a consistent 50 plus. St. Louis was 10 2 years ago. Last year was 0.
But that goes back to my argument. Chicago has 10 times the number of people as St. Louis. Why is St. Louis having 20% of the murders? That means their murder rate is astronomically high.
It's because the city is smaller. If you look at all those, that map you showed me, all the most dangerous per capita places are smaller places. They don't have rich people to dilute what the poor people are doing as far
so
as
they get no mention because they're smaller.
No, just their statistics don't.
Yeah, they do.
I guess yes, they don't get no mention because they're smaller. People don't care about small cities.
So if I got a town that's got 10,000 people in it, and your town only has 200 people in it, even if 30 of them are getting murdered because there's only 200 people here, we don't say nothing about this town. That doesn't make any sense. You either care about violent areas or you don't. Now all of a sudden, well, Chicago's geographically bigger. So, and by the way, Houston is a big city. It's geographically large. It doesn't get any mention by the right. That's a big city. That's the 4th largest city in America that has a violent crime rate. No mention of them.
How about this? Let's Google how many people were shot the 4th of July in Houston. Let's find out what that number is. I don't know. Let's just Google it together and see what we can.
But hold on. It doesn't matter. The fact is the city is violent. Why is there no mention? It don't have to be shot. It could be police. It could be purse snatchers. It could be robberies. There is no mention of Houston at all. As if there is no violence there. No mention at all of the nation's 4th largest city. That makes no sense.
I don't know what to tell you, man. That's
you do know what to tell me. It's being done on politics.
Look, Chicago, like I said, Chicago has always been known as a dangerous spot. My brother went there to learn to be an ER doctor, and he got a lot of experience there.
Shit,
You know, from Philly,
Miami's
Chicago,
been known to be
Baltimore. I think he's like the best ER doctor in the world right now because of that.
yeah, but Miami's always been known to be a violent spot too, and you don't hear him mention that.
Again, no, this because Miami's layout is fucked up. You think it's violent
You're coming up with
the city of Miami is downtown.
You're coming up with excuses for why violence is getting ignored from right-wing cities. I mean, this one is smaller, the layout's bad. People are getting killed there. Why is it not being mentioned?
Miami is not as violent as Chicago, 1,000%. I've never heard of 50 people getting. At most, we get 1 or 2 shootings in Miami Beach during Memorial Weekend. We've never had 50 shootings or 50 people shot in any weekend of any holiday or anything. The reason Miami kind of looks dangerous is like because it's separated into small cities.
I'll give you another city that is
unalive in that small city throws off the numbers. So
you're giving me all kinds of.
It shows up as the most dangerous and the safest place in the country because depending on the sample size, it could be the most dangerous and it could be the safest.
You're giving me all kinds of excuses for why they deliberately are. I mean, Gary, Indiana, which is outside of Chicago, but it happens to be in a red state, has been actually listed as the murder capital. And that's a small area with a lot of homicides in it. Never gets mentioned by the right because it happens to be in a red state. Never gets mentioned at all. I mean, there are so many of these areas.
The overall number is probably like 10 or 20.
It doesn't. If only 30 people live in a city and 5 of them get murdered, well, it's only 30 people there, so we're not gonna mention it. You're just making up excuses for why they're ignoring statistics that are in their cities. You can come up with a million reasons for why they don't talk about it, but at the end of the day, it's just an excuse. Literally, the term murder. Hang on. Literally, the term murder capital has been given to cities in right-wing states. They have actually called them the murder capital, and that has not been mentioned by the right. And you're giving me a million excuses for why that never came up.
I haven't seen it. I can't really argue something about a city I know nothing
Yeah, because
about.
they don't tell you because they're not talking about it. Of course you haven't seen it. They're too busy talking about Chicago.
But it's not them. It's people from Chicago making TV shows, making movies, it's on the news every day. Like, what do you want me to do? Like,
there are movies made.
And, like, go out of my way to research other cities just so I don't have a biased view of Chicago?
Every city I just named you has movies and I mean, you never watched the first 48? It clearly covered Miami. It clearly covered Memphis for years. In fact, they took Memphis off the first 48 because the city council said it's making the city look so violent, tourists aren't even coming here no more. You just ain't watching it. You watching right-wing media that's deliberately not covering these cities. Gary, Indiana had a movie made about its violence. What was it called? Original Gangsters or something? There's plenty of movies that's been made about these cities. But if you're watching right-wing media, you're skipping over them. Plenty of movies. Tulsa is another one. Yeah.
Everything I mentioned is left-wing. Everything I'm talking about came from left-wing media or neutral media. Like, nothing I mentioned came from Fox. All these TV shows were not made by Fox. Shameless, The Chi-Town. Every single TV show about Chicago shows how dangerous it is. These aren't Fox News shows. These are shows made by people from the left.
What city was Breaking Bad in?
Breaking Bad isn't real, but that was Arizona.
You gonna say it's not real? You think all those other shows are real?
Well, they're based on. You tell me how accurate they are. Are they inaccurate? Like, you're the guy from Chicago. You should know more than me. I can tell you for sure Miami's safe. I can pretty much go anywhere in Miami and not worry about getting shot.
I'm just going to tell you, there is absolutely no excuse whatsoever for the right to not mention a single violent city that's in a Republican state. There's no excuse you can come up with for that. Since Trump has been in office, he's been a politician on scene since 2015. So he's coming up on his 11th year. You have never heard him talking about violence in any city that's in a Republican state. There is no excuse for that at all, other than he's playing politics with crime. No excuse for that.
What I'm talking about What I'm talking about is before Trump. Shows
I'm
like
talking
The
about
Wire.
right now during
Very
Trump.
accurate depiction of like Baltimore.
I'm talking about right
all
now.
this.
I'm talking about right now during Trump. I'm talking about the president himself. He has been talking about crime in cities for the entire time he's been on the scene, and it is 100% about liberal cities in liberal states. If you have a violent city that happens to be in a red state, even if it's liberal run, the fact that it's in a red state will eliminate him from ever bringing it up. There is zero excuse for that. There's no other than he's playing politics with crime. Period. You can't make up an excuse for that. The smaller, the map layout is crazy. Anything, there's no 10 years, and you haven't mentioned one in 10 years. There's no excuse for that.
Listen, like what I'm saying is not his fault. All those cities, Chicago, Washington, all these left cities, New York, have been known to be violent my entire lifetime. I remember shows in the 80s showing how dangerous Washington, D.C. is. There's shows...
Now, in other words, it's because it's been violent for a long time.
Chicago is.
St. Louis, wait. Memphis has been violent
for
for a long time, MAGA. St. Louis has been violent for a long time, MAGA. Jacksonville, Florida has been violent for a long time. They made Miami Vice because your damn town was violent for a long time. What are you talking about?
You're right. It was violent back in the 80s, but it's not violent now.
Oh my God.
I've gone up and down Miami. All I do is ride motorcycles through all of South Florida, and I've never had to worry about getting shot.
New Orleans has been violent for a long time, MAGA.
New Orleans, I'll give you New Orleans. I know New Orleans to be violent, but that was more related to Katrina and the aftermath of Katrina.
Okay, you can come up with any reason you want.
What the media has been selling for the last 60 years, its entire lifetime has been selling how dangerous Chicago, New York, Baltimore, and all these cities are.
No, they've been selling how violent those other cities are as well. You just been tuning them out. There are plenty of movies and television shows and murders that talk about. Atlanta has been known as a violent city for a long damn time, going all the way back to the Atlanta child murderers of the 80s. People have known that Atlanta's a violent city forever. Not one mention of that from President Trump. You're just making up excuses for what he is actually doing, which is playing politics to address crime. There's no excuse for it other than that. I got to move it on, though, but I give you credit for having a nice try on that.
We're both right and we're both wrong. I'll leave it at that. Because we're both right in our own way and we're both wrong in our own way.
There is no reason for him not to mention those cities in 10 years. There's no way to be right about that.
I knew those cities before Trump. I knew those cities were dangerous before Trump. So how can you blame Trump when I knew those cities are dangerous, completely separate?
I'm asking you, why is it that he has only talked about violent crime in liberal cities and liberal states? Why is that? Only those. No, it doesn't matter how violent. It doesn't matter how violent a city is in a Republican state. It will never get a mention from him. Why is that?
They've been consistently violent for like 50 years, and two, they're easy pickings.
50 years. So anything that's only been violent for
the mafia and the Chicago mafia and all those criminals, then it just continued. My whole lifetime there have been movies about Chicago being dangerous, and Trump didn't do that. That's just
so. In other words, the city's got to be violent for 50 years before it gets a mention from Trump.
It's just known to.
You laughing because you know I fucked up this. I gotta go.
Now. Yeah, thank you.
50. Okay. Anyway, looking at the comments. Listen, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to deny that Chicago's violent, but there's no legitimate excuse for President Trump ignoring violent cities and red states. There's just no excuse for that. Now, my last caller, movies or Chicago's been violent for 50 years or whatever. There's no excuse if you're focused on what's going on in America, and certainly focused on what's going on in states where the people support you, the red states. You know about this stuff. He clearly knows about the violence in red states. He just do not want to embarrass the red governors is why he's not talking about it. My last caller gave every excuse in the book to avoid saying that. But the fact is, President Trump is playing politics when it comes to addressing crime. That's why there are so many people that do not favor what he's doing in D.C. Because they know it's not about crime. It's about playing politics and using crime as an excuse for what he's doing. because there are so many other cities that are more violent than DC. Why? And he's talking about not even going to those cities next. It's just going to keep targeting blue cities and blue states. Period. Hasn't even mentioned any inclination of ever going to a violent city in a red state. He's playing politics. Half of all Chicago homicides are never investigated. A primary suspect is never named, says Michael. I'd be curious to know what percentage of homicides in other states are never investigated. My guess is because if you ever watch active self-protection on YouTube shows, real life self-defense uses and things like that, they get a lot of clips sent to them by various police departments. They get a lot of stuff from Houston, and they make it clear a lot of the crimes in Houston go unsolved. So, like I said, I'm not disagreeing that there's probably a hell of a lot of unsolved homicides in Chicago, but my guess is there's probably plenty of them in other cities and states too. I'll say this for the umpteenth time. I'm not pretending like Chicago is not violent, but I'm not going to pretend like all the other cities should not be mentioned at all. Like Chicago is somehow so violent that it encompasses so much that it doesn't matter how much crime is in a liberal city and a Republican state. We don't have time to discuss it. Over all of the years Trump has been in office, the man has been in all 50 states holding rallies and things like that, and you can't bring this up at all? That just makes no sense to me, other than you're playing politics with crime. But Chicago, crazy gang activity. So is St. Louis. The Crips is in St. Louis pretty heavy. So is St. Louis. Like I said, anything you mentioned about Chicago, there is no excuse for why it's not being mentioned in other cities. There's nothing happening in Chicago that ain't happening elsewhere. There may be a little bit more of it happening in Chicago than this city, or more of it happening, but there's plenty of it happening in those other cities that you're not mentioning at all. There's just no excuse for why Chicago is getting hammered for decades and these other cities are getting not even an honorable mention. It makes no sense. Are you totally playing politics, Tim? No, I'm trying to stop it. Queer, I'm trying to stop it. Red state, blue city, get it right, chap. That's what I'm saying. As long as your city is in a red state, I don't care if it's liberal run, because most violent cities are run by liberals. Most violent cities are run by liberals because most violent cities have a lot of diversity in it, have a lot of people of color in it, have a lot of poverty in it. So, and of course, diversity avoids the Republican Party like the plague. You don't find a lot of diverse environments that vote Republican. For some reason, anytime an environment gets diverse, they avoid the Republican Party. So all of the really high crime cities are going to be liberal, period. Even the ones that are not violent. If it's a bunch of different people from different groups, there's just and this is before Trump came on the scene. There's just a lot of different groups that believe the Republican Party don't give a shit about them. You can take that as you may, but there's a lot of groups that don't believe the Republican Party cares about them. So any diverse group is going to be liberal. And as long as your city is in a red state, the Trump administration is not going to mention it. Like I said, Gary, Indiana, which is a small city, is incredibly violent. It's incredibly violent. Per capita, it's really bad. Never been mentioned by the Trump administration. Memphis is number 1, Arizona number 4, Chicago is 92. 92 in what? That's way down there. I'd like to know what you mean by that. Google the most dangerous states. I did. That's what this map was. And Illinois is not anywhere near the top. This map right here on your screen right now shows the most dangerous states. This is listed as the most violent crime per 100,000 residents. Now, this goes back to 2020. So, but if you notice, Illinois does appear to be, it's a darker color. But Missouri, which I mentioned so many times with St. Louis, Missouri's darker, and Tennessee is much darker, which is where Memphis is. The states I've been telling you about, even on this map, show that they're darker. I mentioned Little Rock. It's dark as you can get. I mentioned Louisiana, dark as you can get. So Arkansas and Louisiana are dark as you can get on this map. No mention by President. By the way, they got Alaska as incredibly violent. I don't know how they're getting busy up in Alaska, but they do got Alaska as 800 residents per or more per 100,000. There's not a lot of residents in Alaska, but once again, as I was telling my last caller, if it doesn't matter how small your population is, if you guys are murdering each other and shit, you shouldn't get excluded from being mentioned. Just because you're not a heavily populated area and it's maybe only 100,000 of you, if you guys are getting busy like that, you should get discussed. It shouldn't have to be a few million of you before people start talking about it. Listen, you see what happened in southern Texas with the flooding recently? There's not millions of people down there. It got national attention. You see what happened with the hurricane over in Asheville, North Carolina, with the flooding toward the end of Biden's administration? That's not a heavily populated area. It's got plenty of mention. So if a state has a bunch of murders in it, it shouldn't need to be a top 5 city to get talked about. But if you want to defend Trump playing politics, that's the route you're going to take. Alaska is very violent as well, somebody said. Yeah. I just saw a clip on America's active self-protection. Black folks, Negroes, coming out of a club, shooting each other up in Alaska. My God, the comments were as racist as fuck. Black fatigue. I can't believe they got Negroes in Alaska. They messing up this state too. The comments were racist as fuck. So many people were surprised to see Negroes in Alaska, and certainly Negroes acting violently. It was the comments. If you see, there's several videos of it because there was a guy who took a shot at one of the members of security for the club, and another member of security went to the trunk, got an AR, and shot him like 6 or 7 times and killed him. And it's, you can see the whole thing, but man, the comments, because there's multiple videos that show what happened out there. Because this just happened. The comments are really racist. To see a bunch of Negroes, it's almost like watching the Carnival Cruise Line videos with Negroes getting in fights. Comments are racist as hell. It's terrible. But anyway, looking in the comments though, the racist shit needs to stop, but that goes both ways, Tim. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. How many cities did Democrats clean up? I'll wait. Depends on what your definition of cleaning up is. Detroit's getting cleaned up. By the way, Chicago's getting cleaned up. Certain sides of Chicago, since my younger days of being in Chicago, whole neighborhoods are totally unaffordable now. There's plenty of Democrat cities that Democrats have cleaned up. Usually it starts with certain sides of town. What do you think regentrification is? There's plenty of Democrat cities that Democrats clean up. And by the way, I don't think what Trump is doing is going to clean up DC. I think what Trump is doing is causing a criminal element to lay low. You don't hear him talking about how much he's arresting murderers and killers. You think the killers and murderers are gone? No, they're laying low. They got beef. Beef will remain. And once these people back off, then they'll go back to doing what they were doing. And if they don't back off, if Trump does not have the National Guard or the excess police force leave DC, then the person who is used to stealing copper off cars or used to breaking in cars to steal things, they'll just go to another suburb and do it there where the National Guard is not. He's not lowering crime. He's just going to either cause the criminals to lay low or the crime is going to move. They're already showing that the homeless population in Maryland, a neighboring area, is growing because a lot of the homeless, as opposed to being swept up by the Trump administration, they're just going to another area where this stuff is not there. It's just simple. If I can't get what I need in DC, if I'm a criminal or if I'm homeless, then I'll go to the closest area I can get it. So he's not actually cleaning up the town. He's not making crime go away. He's just moving it to another location. So name a few cities that the Democrats cleaned up. I haven't heard. I said Detroit. Detroit is one of them. Definitely certain parts of Chicago. Chicago used to have like Skid Row and shit like that. All that's gone. The downtown area of Chicago, the near northwest loop, that stuff has become super expensive. The South and West sides, where all of the Negroes and all the violence is, even a lot of that is significantly better, significantly cleaner, significantly less violent. The city as a whole, not quite, but you got to give it time. I mean, but the idea that the liberals have not cleaned up any areas, that's just not true. Plenty of areas that's happened in. And I agree with you in the comments says there is crime everywhere. Is this a liberal or conservative stream? It's a stream for everyone. Stream for everyone. You hate him so much, you're trying to make money off of mentioning his name. Trump did say, I don't know if you're aware of this, who said that, the Zinc or something. I don't know if you're aware, but Trump did say he hates all Democrats. So understand that once a president says that, there is a legitimate reason for a large portion of this country to hate him also. So if you're wondering why people have TDS or why do people hate, I mean, he did say, I hate all Democrats. That's an actual quote. So once he said that, there is no reason to suggest that people shouldn't hate him as well. So he did say that. Tim, if you're from Chicago, you have to admit there are some parts have gotten worse too. True. But I think there's some parts of every city in this country that is probably over 50,000 residents that has gotten worse. We had 4 college students get murdered in their sleep in Idaho a year or 2 ago. They just sentenced the guy to, the rest of his life in prison. That's in Boise, Idaho. Parts of Boise, Idaho apparently are getting worse. I mean, so everywhere you go, there are going to be areas that are getting worse. That's just how cities and towns work. People migrate, move, things happen. If a major business, for instance, in your town closes up, that's going to lay off a bunch of people. That usually results in an increase in crime. That usually causes problems. So, I mean, every town got areas that is getting worse. Did he really say that, or was it taken out of context? No, he said, I'll see if I can pull it up. No, he said, I hate Democrats. That's Trump actually said that. He came up with his own excuses for why, but yeah, he did say, I think he said because they try to block all of his legislation or something to that nature. But no, he did say that. And like I said, this is what happens when you only get your media from one source. Fox News is not going to play Trump saying he hates Democrats. It makes him look terrible.
I really do. I hate that. I cannot stand them. With all of the things.
Hang on, I'll give it to him. But this is Trump saying he hates Democrats. So anytime you hear somebody got TDS, if it's a liberal, he's kind of giving them a reason to have it.
I really do. I hate them. I cannot stand them. With all of the things we did with the tax cuts and rebuilding our military, not one Democrat voted for us. And I think we use it in the campaign that's coming up, the midterms, because we got to beat them. But all of the things that we've given, and they wouldn't vote only because they hate Trump. But I hate them too, you know that? So it's sort of, I really do, I hate them. I cannot stand them because I really believe they hate our country. You want to know the truth? I really do.
Now, real quick, let me make something clear. I don't believe every single Democrat in existence fits the narrative that he just stated. That's the first thing. There are some Democrats who do favor some of the things Trump is doing. The LGBTQ stuff, securing the border. So every Democrat is not, even DC, there are people on TV saying that they want the National Guard in DC and Chicago. So first of all, he is wrong to stereotype and categorize all Democrats in his statement as to why he hates them. So I just want to point out, based on what he's saying there, you can't excuse Democrats for having TDS at that point, when he's just clearly said, I really do, I hate them. No argument there. That's an actual quote. That's not somebody making it up. You mean good people on both sides. I like that, Larry. Tim, stop giving that magazine guy airtime. You mean MAGA Reacts? I like talking to MAGA Reacts. Let me go. But I mean, that is what he said. You just heard him say it. So there's no denying that he said that. King Finn.
Boy, you starting to bloviate real early.
Because it's supposed to be a shorter live. I was about to end this, but I got to hear from you.
I'm just wondering, man. I mean, like, the topic of your show and the 5 points you brought up earlier, I really think you missed one.
Which one?
Because even though you said the 7 that you said, I still think that there is more to that freedom of speech that we could possibly lose. But that's beyond the point.
I want to know
really,
though, because I'm making a video and I want to know what else in terms of free speech.
Go back over the 7 that you said, because
The five rights that I believe you will lose under President Trump, and the 2 honorable mentions. Number 1 is the First Amendment, which covers the right to press, assembly, speech, and religion. I think he's going to attack all of those, including the flag burning thing, which was protected free speech. So that's 1, free speech. Number 2 is the Fourth Amendment. The right against unwarranted searches and seizures. He's already said he's in favor of bringing back stop and frisk, which the courts have already ruled is a Fourth Amendment violation. So you're going to lose your Fourth Amendment rights. Number 3, free and fair elections. Need I say more? Number 4, same-sex marriage. Number 5, a national abortion ban. And the 2 honorable mentions you will lose are birthright citizenship and states' rights, particularly if you're in a liberal state. You don't do what he likes, he's going to come and take over your state and do whatever the hell he wants. What say you?
If I remember correctly, first of all, I agree with all of those. I think that'd be a pretty clear and easy way to go ahead and make this a dictatorship. Just like his dad Putin said in that 3-hour meeting. That's probably exactly what him and Papa Putin went over. The other thing I was going to say is the right to bear arms. Because why would he let you ignorant motherfuckers have guns if he's going to turn this into a dictatorship?
Because guns don't stop tyranny. I've been making that argument throughout some of the mass shooting events and telling people that all my right wingers, well, we got to have Second Amendment rights because it prevents tyranny. Slavery, women's oppression, what happened to the Native Americans, all of them motherfuckers was armed. You don't have the ability to fight off what the government has. Having Second Amendment rights does not prevent tyranny. You can ask David Koresh. You can ask all cats. It'll just slaughter you.
I agree with that, but you're forgetting what we're talking about. I'm not talking about two-way getting rid of two-way for everybody. I'm talking about for everybody he don't want to have two-way, like me and you, we would. You understand what I'm saying?
So you believe there could be a time when Trump takes away two-way rights for minorities, maybe?
Exactly.
I'm not going to go that far. Yeah, the reason why I gave this list is because it is based on 2 things. 1, things that Trump has said, like he's already said he wants to get rid of stop and frisk and things like that. And 2, the opinion of MAGA. Everything I mentioned, MAGA would have no problem, just like with the flag burning thing. MAGA would have no problem overturning same-sex marriage. They would have no problem they already said it. They're favoring giving stop and frisk rights to police in liberal states. They already don't said this stuff. Now, what you're talking about, I have never heard MAGA say that they're favorable to taking away guns from minorities and stuff like that.
How much MAGA do you know? And this is a good question, I think. Maybe you should ask MAGA Reacts. Maybe you have some special.
You're going to say no to that.
Number guy. How much of Black MAGA is out there? Because if you ask probably just mostly, YT MAGA probably ain't got no problem with that. Black MAGA is the only people who have a problem with that. Black and people of color who quote unquote set it down with MAGA will be the only people that have a problem with that. You can realize. So you ain't got to take it there, but I'm gonna put that in as an honorable mention. The other thing I was gonna say was I think it's 14, the women's right to vote.
And I have heard some MAGA in the far right circles talking that way, but obviously most MAGA women don't agree with losing their right to vote. So I'm not saying the stuff you're saying is wrong, but I'm just simply saying with Trump only in office for 7 or 8 months so far, the stuff you're talking about, if I had to update the list in a year or 2 when Trump has gotten only more powerful, I may have those in there. But right now, I don't have enough to feel confident to make those statements.
I feel you. I understand. Yeah. We can revisit this.
Yeah, I can see possibly revisiting it because that J.D. Vance, not J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth tweeted out a guy who favors taking away his right to vote.
Of course. So is Stephen Jackson. This is Steve Bannon and Jackson. They've been saying this for years. That's not.
But it hasn't gained enough steam among MAGA and among enough Republican politicians yet for me to say right now. I do agree with you, though. There are some members of the Republican Party that do, what is his name? Gen X, that calls in my program. He's a Proud Boy. He says women shouldn't have the right to vote. So I get people that, I've had about 3 or 4 guys that call in my show that say women shouldn't. So there are some MAGA that believe that.
Who was that said, that was Vance that said that women with kids should have more of a vote.
Yeah.
They should be able to take
Yeah, JD Vance did say that. Yeah, he did
Who
say
was
that.
that said that?
JD Vance said that women with children
Right.
should have. He said that if you have children, you should have more voting power than a woman that doesn't have children. But the voting power should go to your husband.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
That's just, I mean, to me, this whole idea that he brought across today is literally out of Putin's dictator book. The crazy part about it to me, and I don't know if you've seen this, but I watch a whole bunch of news. Putin is even disagreeing with Trump on some of this stuff. Like, Putin is criticizing him about this whole bringing the army into. Now, it could just be for show, but I find it hilarious that Putin went to and made a speech about it, talking about the fact that Trump is putting, army in the capital. He's like, dude, there's no way you should do that. Putin is saying this. The fucking war criminal is disagreeing with his little guy, Trump, is saying this shouldn't be happening. Are you serious?
Well, I will say that Putin, to me, despite what MAGA has said, Putin has been an embarrassment to Trump, in my opinion. They said we need to get rid of Biden so we can have a leader that the world respects. I haven't seen anything from Putin to suggest he respects Trump. Anything at all other than him shaking a man's hand. Trump has made so many threats to Putin. Putin hasn't adhered to none of them. And Trump has not carried out a single one of those threats. Why would Putin have any fear of President Trump at all? Trump has said so many empty threats to him at this point, and they claim that Putin somehow respects Trump more than Biden. I don't see any way to believe that.
No, Putin don't respect that dude, man. Putin see him as one of his kids, just like he should, dog. Because Trump is a toddler with the power of the presidency. He's a toddler. It's like if you put Barron at 3 years old in the presidency. That's exactly what's happening, man. He's running around half-assed, half-wit, just like all of his followers. I'm including you too, MAGA Reacts, because the shit you said don't make no damn sense. And I just got a question for all of y'all MAGA who are steadily talking about all of these quote-unquote liberal cities that y'all so in uproar about the violence. Do you look at your own damn city? MAGA Reacts, do you look at Jacksonville, Florida? All y'all talking about Chicago, but none of you motherfuckers live there. I just want to know, how are you the judge? It's just like it's like the whole AD thing. How are you the one to judge what a woman does with her body? How are you the one to judge what a city does with its damn occupants? You don't have the right. If you don't live there, maybe you should shut the fuck up and worry about your own front porch. I'm just saying. I get real tired of people talking about Chicago. I get tired of people talking about Detroit. I get tired of y'all all talking about, oh my God, there's so much liberal violence going on and the liberals aren't doing anything and they don't care about crime. Right. But in Alabama, they found a whole child sex abusing ring. Yeah. Whole ring down there. Every school pew action that happens, where's that shit happening at?
It ain't
Where's the disgust and disdain? Where's the oh my God, it's crime, we gotta stop it. Y'all much rather point in liberal cities than look at your own fucking front porch. And the shit is disgusting. And the idea that you are following this dude straight over a fucking cliff makes me know exactly how you feel about yourself. You don't care, you're a fucking follower. Stop trying to normalize that shit. Period, point blank. It ain't normal.
Well, the man is winning in their eyes, and they got a reason. I mean, I think the biggest accolade of Trump, and even though I favor what he's doing on the border, I think he's doing a good job on the border. I think they favor what he's doing significantly on protecting women's sports. That's not a big issue to me because it ain't happening to nobody. But the biggest thing that Trump is doing by far that I think MAGA is celebrating, and it's so huge that it's going to remain big because it doesn't have anything to do with your actual life other than giving you pleasure. It's sticking it to the liberals every day, day in and day out. Victories against the liberals, whether it's invading their cities, whether it is going after judges and folks that, originally ruled against him, and he can say, I'm punished. I mean, the sticking it to the liberals is kind of like Christmas every day for MAGA. So even if Trump fucks up on the economy and actual policies and legislation for this country, I think they will still be very happy with him because he's sticking it to perceived enemies of theirs, whether it's black communities in Chicago and shit like that. All of that stuff. It feels good to see that happening.
You know what the question is? When is it gonna stop being where you view it as sticking it to the liberals, and where you start viewing it as you losing your own rights, your own problems?
I just gave you 5 of them. Oh, they ain't gonna. You know something? I don't think that matters. I think Mississippi is a perfect example where in Mississippi, damn near everybody is poor. But as long as we not equal, we're okay.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I forget again who said that quote. I think we talked about it last time. As long as you can make a person believe that they are more rich than a black person, than the lowest Negro, then they'll be okay. They'll let you do anything.
Because Mississippi, we hear about how bad liberal cities are. Mississippi is ran terribly. Poverty, schools, health, they're at the bottom of every fucking thing. You don't hear the right mention them at all. They are at the bottom of everything. When we talk about crap, how about, the mortality rate, the pregnancy mortality rate, how children are doing in school? The poverty is terrible in Mississippi. And you don't hear the right say anything about it whatsoever. That state is at the bottom in all sorts of categories. Life expectancy is terrible. I mean, it's just awful. And they don't mention it whatsoever.
It's really shocking to see. And it further just proves that nothing really matters to them other than racism. That's kind of the reality of the shit. It proves nothing but the point that liberals have always made. Y'all, the GOP has become the party of racism, become the party of crime, become the party of lying, the party of big business, the party of we do it better and we think we are better. It's a whole other form of classism, and all Donald Trump did was make it easier for them to jump out there. On another point, with that, the first topic you had up, do you know that there are very serious offenses when he's talking about this flag burning bullshit that everybody has been doing for years? As a person who was actually born on the 4th of July, truly and actually born on the 4th of July, and actually know a lot of the history about what you do as far as desecrating the flag, burning's not the only thing that you do to desecrate the flag.
Oh, hell no. I've covered that on the show. In fact, this Blue Lives Matter, that's desecrating the flag. The flag code says you're not supposed to discolor the flag. I mean, there's all kinds of things people do that's wrong to the flag that we accept.
Wearing the flag as bikini underwear is actually desecration of the flag.
Say that again?
The flag correctly. You ain't never seen women walking around with a flag bikini on, the flag as a bikini?
Yeah, I have.
That's desecration of the flag. Not flying the flag at complete mass when it's supposed to be is desecration of the flag. Letting it drop on the floor is desecration of the flag. So please don't tell me about a complete right of freedom of speech as desecration of the flag, because if I want to burn a flag, I'm going to do that. And all you fucking Coors, Bud Light, MAGA drinking ass motherfuckers, y'all need to stop with that shit. It's really sad to see y'all do. It's not sad. It's actually funny, to be honest with you, because a lot of y'all motherfuckers don't even know what y'all talking about. Like MAGA Reacts again. A lot of y'all don't even know what the hell y'all talking about. Y'all just spouting shit out the top of your fucking head and watching Fox all the time. And then when you get on here and we put you in your fucking place, then you want to be friendly. Then you want to back up. Oh yeah, we both won. We both were right. You're fucking wrong as hell, and your whole argument fucking went to complete shambles. Like you need rock of shit. And you need to stop doing that. You're embarrassing yourself. As an Egyptian person who immigrated to this country, you ought to be fucking embarrassed. I don't know if I could do that shit every time. Every time you come on here, man, you start real tough. Oh yeah, I did this. It's like watching a Mike Tyson fight. All the way to the point where he figure out that logic is actually real and he's not living in reality, and he get the fuck knocked out of him. Stop doing that to yourself, man. You make yourself sound crazy.
All right,
Anyway, Tim,
King.
come on, man. Have a good night.
King Finn, always a pleasure. Thank you. Appreciate you coming on the point. That was funny. That was really funny. Like you, I'm not friendly with an asshole like you. What does that mean? I have a brand new house on the beach that cost me less than $100K. Good for you, sir. But yeah, like I said, you don't hear about Mississippi. Mississippi ranks dead last in the quality of education, the level of education that children have, like in regards to, they judge how do the kids on average, how they do on test scores and stuff like. They're at the bottom. In terms of how many citizens have health care. They're at the bottom. How many citizens are living without internet access, which means they're being set back, obviously. They're at the bottom in a lot of areas in Mississippi. And you just do not hear from the right at all about that. At all. Dead last in many areas. Dead last. I see somebody says Mississippi worst of all states. Yeah, dead last. You don't hear nothing about it. They're too busy focused on Chicago, where there are plenty of people who are doing well in Chicago. Yeah, there's crime there, but there's plenty of people doing well in Chicago. Don't forget Arkansas and Oklahoma. Really, all of the Bible Belt states have rampant poverty. I think Texas and Florida have decent economies, so they try to. And Texas has a lot of uninsured Americans in that state as well. But the ones in between, from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia. There's some really, really poor areas in those states. Really poor areas in that state. All that shit up and down the Appalachian where JD Vance, dirt poor shit out there. Dirt poor. They believe in prayer and Jesus and struggling. Dirt poor type shit. And they don't mention that on Fox at all. They don't mention none of that stuff on the right at all. How bad those people are struggling out there. No, it just does not come up. You said Mississippi is what? I just got on. Mississippi is dead last in a whole lot of categories. Infant mortality rate, life expectancy, they're way at the bottom. The educational level for children, they're way at the bottom. Just sheer amount of income households are bringing in, they're way at the bottom in a lot of areas. A lot of areas. Mississippi is bad. Bro, but were you born and raised there? No, I was born and raised in Chicago. And I'm willing to admit that Chicago's violent. But I'm telling you, in terms of Mississippi, I'm going to trade places. And I'd rather be in Chicago than Mississippi. The opportunities for Chicago are significantly better. Let's say I'm living in Chicago and I don't want to be there. Or I'm living in Mississippi and I don't want to be there. There are far more opportunities available for me to get myself right and get out of Chicago than there are of Mississippi. It's just a very, very poor, decrepit place to be. Mississippi is pretty fucking bad. Okay, true, I agree. I grew up in Mississippi, but I left, yeah. Tim always has to shift attention when we talk about how horrible Black culture is. When you say Black culture is horrible, I think the reason Black culture comes across as horrible is because you're focusing on what you don't like about it. A good example is, I can show you Carnival Cruise Line, fights from Black people on Carnival Cruise Line, and you'll say you got Black fatigue. You're sick of seeing Black people doing shit. I can show you Black people running into a CVS, stealing every damn thing in sight. You'll have Black fatigue. I can show you the same violent shit coming from policing. You'll never have police fatigue. There are literally thousands of videos online of police misbehaving. Not once do the same people saying they have Black fatigue have police fatigue. I can show you tons of white people being convicted of abusing children while working in churches, schools, mass shootings, and then, of course, a few hundred years of oppressing and raping every damn body. You won't have white fatigue. So what you're judging Black culture on is skewed. I'm not saying there's not plenty of Black people doing bad shit, but you're treating them differently than you would other groups of people you see doing bad shit. It doesn't matter how many white people you see doing wrong. You're never going to get white fatigue if you're a white person. You're just never going to get it. Same thing with the police. You're never going to get police fatigue no matter how many cops you see treating people wrong. But it doesn't take a whole lot to get Black fatigue. You're judging it based on skewed stats. Now you say look at the stats, Tim. Now, when I tell you the stats of when you look at the stats of the black community, let's say you're going by the false stat of 13% of the population, 50% of the inmates, whatever stats you want to get. I'm not even going to argue. A lot of the stats you go by are false, but let's just say every stat you have is right. Look at the stats on racism. Look at the stats on throughout American history on racism and tell me why you don't have white fatigue. Not only being racist, but the shit they done while being racist. Murderings, lynchings, rapes. Look, as you say, look at the stats. Look at the stats. So what I'm simply saying is you're judging it based on a skewed view. Because if you can see the awful shit that black people do, and it'll lead you to have all these negative connotations of black culture, but then, like I said, the stats of whites in regards to racism, holding people back, raping folks, and murder, you should have the same viewpoint. Because the stats are insane. I mean, literally, when you look at the black community, the stats probably started originating around the crack epidemic. If you go back before the crack epidemic, the stats on the black community, you didn't hear so much. It just was nowhere near what it is. Since the crack epidemic, the black neighborhoods have gotten horrible and all of the crack. When you look at the stats on whites and racism and all of the murders and that shit's spanning generations. I mean, that shit's going, you got multiple decades of that stuff. But yet, I'm fine with the white culture. It's the black culture I have a problem with. So that's what I'm simply saying is that you're looking at it, and not to mention also the police stats are really fucking bad going back generations because a lot of them were tied into what the white people were doing. You had folks who were law enforcement and racist Klan simultaneously. And that stuff, like I said, that stuff spans decades. But meanwhile, the worst of the black community is kind of from the 80s till now. It didn't take long to get black fatigue and talk about the black culture, but I can show you hundreds of years of the whites and you just don't have the same opinion about their culture. So that's what I'm simply saying is you're judging it through a skewed lens. You just are. And I'm not excusing shit, Cora. I'm not excusing shit. I'm just simply saying if you only see problems with black culture and you're ignoring all that, I would submit to you that you are the one that is excusing it. You are the one that is excusing it. You should have a hell of an opinion about like you see people waving the Confederate flag around, for instance, pride and heritage. What is the fucking culture of the Confederates? If you want to talk about the stuff black people have done that's wrong, what is the culture of the Confederates? How bad is that? But you don't see that. You only see the blacks. You only see the problem with the black. The culture of the Confederates is significantly worse than what anything. I mean, at worst, the black culture, at least it is black on black crime. They were actually doing it to other people, babies, using them as gator bait and shit like that, bombing churches with kids in them. I mean, just it's horrible. But you're only really focused on that black culture, so you're not going to have the same opinion of that. That's the reason why I say the way you're viewing it is skewed. Looking in the comments, somebody says, oh, bullshit. Give me whatever metric you want to, give me whatever metric you're using to go by. And tell me how that excludes what I just said. Give me any metric, crime, violence, shootings, murders, rapes. Give me any metric you want to go by. And explain to me how it makes sense to ignore generations of it coming from one side and focus on a few decades of it coming from the other side. Give me any metric you want to use and tell me how it's bullshit. I'm not trying to exonerate the black community at all. I'm just simply saying if one side has been doing it since the crack epidemic in the late 80s till now, good solid 40 years, and the other side's been doing it since the beginning of the country's foundation. But yet we're not going to mention them at all because, listen, yeah, they did it for a couple hundred years, but they're not doing it now. So we're not going to really talk about them. We're going to focus on this group that's doing it. Then your judgment is skewed. That's all I'm saying. Give me your metric, give me your stats, and tell me how you can see it on one side and not on the other with that much history of it happening. Let me know. I live next to blacks. I work with blacks. I order from blacks. I do business with blacks. I'm white. They are not scared of me, and personally, not all treat me just fine as I do them in Alabama. Then get away from the ones that are not treating you fine. My guess is there's going to be white people that are not going to treat you fine. I mean, that's just how humans work. I know plenty of black folks come on the program every damn day. I've had people on this program tonight calling me sellouts and Uncle Toms and shit. Happens all the time. So Tim is still a slave. It's just mental now. If you want to look at it that way. I mean, I do go to work. I know for certain that 30 to 40% of my income is going to be taken by the government no matter what. If I don't give it to them, they're going to lock me up. Yeah, I may be a slave to some degree, as all of us are. For some people, if you don't look like them, you will always be wrong. They just don't know. It's already been adjudicated at the beginning of time that the flesh profits nothing. I like that. But yeah, like I said, before we wrap it up, if people have black fatigue because they already had a certain view of black people. As I pointed out, it does not matter how many cops those same people see doing things wrong. They'll never get police fatigue. I can show you tons of videos of, like I said, of Caucasians doing things bad. They'll never get Caucasian fatigue. The only fatigue they can ever actually get is black fatigue. Even if I show them videos of blacks doing shit and they happen to have white people with them at the same time, they would not develop white fatigue. It's just based on a skewed judgment. And that's not excusing the shit black people do. I'm just simply saying, if you're going to only see it one way, then it's skewed. Not a slave, a serf. Welcome to the digital Feldham. I like that one, Michael. Serf. I haven't heard that term in a while. Serf. Hanging out with the Irish slaves, maybe. Redneck fatigue. Okay. All right. I'll give you an E for effort. Redneck fatigue, somebody said. Real quick before we continue on, I did want to play this here because this is what me and my last guest, this came up because we were talking about the possibility, and I'm not going to claim that I think Trump is going to take away women's rights to vote. That was not among the rights I said people were going to lose, but there are members of the Republican Party that do favor altering a woman's ability to vote, if not taking it away. There are people that are saying that. Just like every liberal is not saying they don't know what a woman is, but there are some people that are saying a man can become a woman. Well, there are some people on the right that are saying a woman can lose all her damn voting rights.
Let's give votes to all children in this country, but let's give control over those votes to the parents of those children. When you go to the polls in this country as a parent, you should have more power. You should have more of an ability to speak your voice in our democratic republic than people who don't have kids. Let's face the consequences and the reality. If you don't have as much of an investment in the future of this country, maybe you shouldn't get nearly the same voice. Now, let's give...
That's J.D. Vance. That's your vice president. So for you folks who are hoping and praying for the demise of President Trump, this guy is on deck in the bullpen, suggesting that a woman with more kids, or parents, he didn't say woman, by the way, he said parents, because I do believe there are other videos of him suggesting that those votes should be held under the control of the father. But you heard him say that each kid would get a vote, and meaning that the parent or the parents with more children would have more voting power than a parent would. Remember the whole childless cat ladies comment? Here you go. He really favors women having a bunch of kids. I mean, so if you got, the more kids you have, the more voting power you get. So when he said childless cat ladies, this is kind of the precedent to it. He does favor people having a bunch of kids. The whole replacement theory thing could be at play here. I don't know, but this is only 2021. This ain't that old. This is not coming from way back in time. He said this in 2021. So are we to believe he don't think this way now? Give parents with more kids more say so at the polling. Now, I'm going to tell you my humble opinion. We can bring race into this. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm definitely not saying I'm wrong, but I don't think he's talking about a black mom with a whole bunch of kids. The welfare queen that's sitting around with 6 kids, I don't think he's talking about she deserves more voting power. I don't see that at all. I think this is more Marsha Brady's mom he's talking about. But I did see him saying that. You did see him saying this right here. And this to me is wrong as the days are long, because let's say you do have a woman that has 3 kids and she's at home on welfare. Maybe a 30-year-old woman that has 3 kids and she's home on welfare trying to find a job. And meanwhile, you compare her to a woman that's serving in the armed forces that's 20 with no kids and is fighting for our country. You're telling me the woman with 3 kids should have more voting power than the with no job than the woman that's serving in the armed forces because she doesn't have kids? I don't see how this makes sense whatsoever. According to him, because the people with kids have more invested in society, they should get more voting power. The person who's serving in the armed forces has their whole damn life invested in protecting the country. Why should a mom with no job and multiple children get more voting power? To me, it's crazy to even bring this up, but you hear him saying it. That's what he believes. You have to fight for your right to party. Shout out to the Beastie Boys. You're missing the point is what's going on. I don't think he's talking about this actually being policy. He's talking about people being more invested. I don't think you're telling me. Did you hear what he said?
Votes to all children in this country, but let's give control over those votes to the parents of those children.
I think he's fairly clear on what he's talking about doing. What are you telling me? He said, I'm missing the point. What's going on? I don't think he's talking about I don't think he's talking about this actually being policies. How the hell do you know that? How are you going to tell me taking a man at face value for what he's saying is missing the point? Meanwhile, you're reading it and interpreting it as something he's clearly not saying, and you're somehow correct. I'm taking the man at his word. He didn't say anything to suggest what you're saying, which is, I don't think he's talking about actually being policy. I don't see where he's saying anything other than this is the policy he wants. I'm taking him at his word. I'm not going to try to make up excuses and reinterpret what he's saying to make him look better, because what he's saying is obviously awful. No, I'm taking him at his word. Why would he say this if he don't want to actually do it? Why would he say something this outlandish if he didn't want to actually do it? And why would the audience behind him be applauding if they didn't want him to do it? This doesn't sound like something he said what you don't really want to do. It sounds like
children in this country. Give votes to all children in this country, but let's give control over those votes to the parents of those children.
I just want to interrupt to say, dude looks serious than a motherfucker when he's saying this. He don't want to actually do this. He's not smiling. He's not joking. I mean, he's staring at the audience. This is serious. This ain't something he is just saying for the sake of saying. Dude looks serious as hell. Even got the eyeliner perfectly trimmed.
When you go to the polls in this country as a parent, you should have more power. You should have more of an ability to speak your voice in our democratic republic than people who don't have kids. Let's face the consequences and the reality. If you don't have as much of an investment in the future of this country, maybe you shouldn't get nearly the same voice. Now, let's give.
Now, I see somebody in the comments said, pure speculation again. Look, I don't ever think it's speculation to take somebody at face value for what they're saying. If somebody says, I'm going to come to your house and kick your ass, I don't see anything wrong with taking them at their word and being prepared to get in a fight or shoot their ass when they get to your crib. The man said he wants to give parents with more kids more power at the polling place than people who don't have kids. Why would you say something this wild if you don't mean it? That makes no sense at all. That makes, for a politician that's 2021, by the way, so this is deep in, he's a politician at this point. Why would he say that if he didn't mean it? That makes no sense at all to just say something crazy like that. Yes, he was serious, and they will try. Yes, he was serious, and they will try to slide it in because they know their followers are too lazy to read policies. Yeah, if there's one thing I'm never going to buy, it's that he didn't mean what he was saying here. Have you seen anything from him whatsoever since this to suggest that he was joking when he said this? Nothing. This is what often happens, is that somebody says something that is outlandish and insulting or controversial, and to prevent the person from looking bad, folks try to reinterpret it to mean something else when the person themselves never said it meant anything other than what they were saying. This guy meant this. This guy meant what he said. I don't agree with the power in the poll, though. Maybe he was serious, maybe he wasn't. Give me any reason at all whatsoever to believe he wasn't serious. I don't see any reason whatsoever to jump to the conclusion that, well, he wasn't serious. You're campaigning, you're talking about legislation in front of an audience. Why am I supposed to think you're not serious? This is no different than if the left tried to say what Mamdani, the mayoral candidate in New York that's a socialist, is running. If liberals tried to say that guy wasn't serious about something, you wouldn't believe it. He's campaigning on socialism. He's campaigning on government-owned businesses. Liberal comes, well, he's just joking. He don't really mean that. You're taking him out of context. You wouldn't buy that. He's campaigning. He's saying it while he's campaigning. This guy is saying it while he's a politician campaigning. There's no reason not to believe what he's saying. And I haven't seen anything from him since where he apologized or corrected it. So as far as I'm concerned, he meant it. He was serious as a heart attack, Tim. Yeah, I don't see any reason to believe otherwise. Feminism was created by the cigarette industry. Women were not allowed to smoke in public. You think that's what sparked feminism? Women wanted to be able to smoke in public? I don't know. I can't argue with you on that. A lot easier than admitting you've been duped and are in a cult. Perhaps. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, folks, I do appreciate the 141,000 on the like side. Got to get my ass up early and go to work just like the rest of you folks do. Pull myself up by my bootstraps. Nevertheless, I do appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Feel free to follow the program if you're watching on Instagram, TikTok, and if on YouTube. Give your boy a sub if you're watching. Real quick, just want to say, I mentioned this earlier. I do have platforms I plan on going live on. Truth Social. I am on Truth Social, the Handsome Liberal, and X. If you're on one of those platforms, do your boy a solid, give me a follow. We are going to, I know Truth Social is going to be wild than a motherfucker, but I did find out I can go live on Truth Social. I'm excited about doing it, but then again, I know it's going to be, I see in the comments, Billy Wap says, good luck. I'm going to try to take this to Truth Social. Hopefully I can get, I go where MAGA's at. You know how I like to do it. We go where MAGA, we are MAGA friendly. We go where MAGA is often as well. And X. So it can be interesting. I don't block, ban, or censor anybody. And I'm going to go into the lion's den where free speech reigns supreme. So feel free to follow me on there. And as you see, Tim Liberals. You asked why was I not on Facebook? Because one of my devices is acting up. Because we have a device for each platform we're on. So there are multiple cameras looking at me, which is why you see people, you cross-eyed than a motherfucker. No, the camera's aimed at me at different angles, and the eyes can look crazy depending on what I'm looking at. My eyes straighten up when I'm looking at the right camera. So that's why. And also understand, folks, I'm not ignoring anybody's comments. Each one of these devices has comments flying all over the fucking place. So I don't always see your comments. Bootstraps is plain in your face expression. Hey, Tim, WNBA, just what it says. Hey, Tim, WNBA, just a modern soap opera. How so? How is the WNBA, talking about the women's basketball league, how is it how do you compare it? Well, I get some of what you're saying. You're talking about there's a whole lot of affairs and sexual related. Yeah, there could be some validity to what you're saying. There's a whole large portion of that league that are lesbians. So yeah, there is probably some remnants of a soap opera that could be compared to the WNBA, because a lot of them probably are sleeping with each other. I don't disagree with that. People are throwing dildos on the court at WNBA games. That's fucking rude. In fact, one guy actually somebody threw a dildo and hit a young girl in the back of the head with it. But they are throwing dildos on the court at WNBA games. There's a lot of lesbians out there. That's probably why Caitlin Clark was so popular, because, well, she's white in an all-black league. That always helps, but she also is a straight female. But anyway, we'll talk about the actual show as always. Feel free to follow and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and I'll catch you folks tomorrow. Y'all take care. I got to get my ass to bed. Thank you for tuning in. Gots to go.